What's up, MDT Nation? Good morning, random pop up Sunday live. Been on the road a lot this year and been on the road a lot recently, traveling for various projects and wanted to pop in for a quick Sunday morning live. I've got a number of things on my mind. We're really going to dive into when you're managing the training for an enterprise level effort. What are some of the tips, tricks, best practices, things to avoid? And how can you navigate all that so that you have an effective training that marries with whatever the enterprise level effort is? If you find this topic interesting, by all means, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so that we can keep making great content like this. And in always, you can get more resources about NBT at noboringtraining.com. That's where you can find all of our products and services. But anyway, NBT Nation, I've been knee deep in an enterprise level effort. And there's a huge training component part of that. So when I say enterprise level effort, here's what I'm talking about. Some obvious examples: maybe it's a hospital and you've got a huge new reporting system that is being implemented inside the organization, or a new uh, medical certification process that has to be done across multiple departments for some sort of legal requirement. Maybe your company is rolling out a new enterprise level software package that touches multiple different departments. Maybe you're a large organization and you're implementing a new product that multiple different departments need to be aware of, from marketing to manufacturing to legal to quality. And that new product has a training component to it. So when I say enterprise level effort, those are the kind of scenarios that I'm talking about, all of which have training is just one component of an otherwise super complicated project. And projects like that, you typically have some sort of project leadership that's managing all of that. It's the kind of project where both senior leaders, mid-level managers, frontline people are involved in getting all of the details of the project figured out, getting it launched, timetables, communication plans, all of that. And as the training piece, you're responsible to help coordinate that, or coordinate that across many departments. So, like I said, I've been knee deep. I'm in the trenches too on a regular basis, and I am knee deep in helping to coordinate a training effort for a scenario that is similar to what you just heard there. So, let's dive into what do you do? What are some of the lessons learned I've had over the last year or so? And what are some of the tips and tricks to make that process as painless as possible? Super easy for that to fly off the rails. So, number one, I mentioned this in a previous discussion a few months ago. You have to be organized, like super duper organized, like organized to a crazy level. Use all of the available tools in your arsenal to do that, whether it's a good old fashioned spreadsheet, a smart sheet, a Trello board, strings and buttons, a cork board, whatever. But you got to be organized. You got to communicate better than you've ever communicated before. That's like over explain things, make information available in 1,000 different ways. You can get information on a internal SharePoint. You can get information in this shared folder. We're doing office hours. We've got a chat feed. We've got, the information. You communicate the steps of the plan, timetables, what good training looks like, how the process is going to work to implement the training, everything, the whole thing. You got to communicate better than you've ever communicated in your entire life. And then the last piece is templates. In the previous discussion, I talked about the use of templates, and that can be a real lifesaver if you're trying to have people who don't train deliver training as part of this process, as part of this big effort. In other words, you've got a training team, but people from all these various departments have to deliver the training, and those folks may not be trainers. Templates are your best friend. Have them fill out information so that you can maybe assemble it into a training and then you give it back to them to save them a little bit of legwork. Give them a template so that they can analyze their situation and they come up with a training plan for their little piece of the puzzle. Use a template to build a master timeline. You could use templates in a million different ways. So organize, communicate, and templates is point number one. Again, I addressed that in a previous chat, so I'm not going to hammer those too much more. Number two on the agenda here, we're talking about rolling out the training piece of some organizational wide effort. Lessons learned, you will face training experts like you've never seen before. And when I say training experts, I mean people who have legitimately good ideas, legitimately good viewpoints, legitimately good input that you absolutely positively need to listen to, even if they have never trained ever in their life. So don't disregard somebody who just doesn't happen to know what ADDIE means. Don't disregard their input. Get input from the frontline users, from those mid-level managers, senior leaders. Set up feedback loops. Spend time one-on-one meeting with them. Have those casual hallway chats. Have office hours where you tell people, hey, I'm going to be in this conference room and come down and see me. Get that communication going and get those good ideas coming in from people who really have never done training before, but they've got an idea that can be really helpful. When it comes to training experts, however, there's the other end of the spectrum. These are the people who think they know what training is, who are either they are either full of themselves and they think they know what training is, or they have a different agenda. They are putting on a persona, they are protecting their turf, they don't really believe in training and they're just paying lip service to it, or they're just a jerk. Let's be honest. Anyway, you will face people who really think they know what training is, and you have to be prepared to have, in a professional, respectful way, the you've got to have your facts and figures ready to say, yeah, no, that's not going to work, and here's why. Or I hear what you're saying. Have you considered blah blah blah? That is a counterpoint to their great idea. There is a spectrum of training experts out there. Listen to the really good ones and be ready for the people who think they know about training and have no earthly idea, or their cool idea just doesn't make sense. So there's actually a middle ground there. There will be people, from the people who have no clue what they're talking about, the people who have really good ideas. There'll be that middle ground of people who have ideas that are okay, but they don't make sense in the greater arching program. They have a good idea that maybe makes sense for their department, what will cause heartburn for 5 other departments or teams. Again, you got to be ready, prepared, and have clear explanations as to why that doesn't work. Last point on the training experts topic. Um, be Practice some emotional intelligence, practice some awareness. So something I struggle with, and just in full transparency here, is that when I hear the training experts, I instantly have that wall of like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're talking about. Why are you pretending to be a training expert? You know, yeah, it's almost instant frustration sometimes. And I got to grow up. I got to push through that. I got to really push that to the wayside because that's not fair. That's my own ego coming up. That's my own issues and mess. So I share that with you, NBT Nation, to say that when those training experts say, "Hey, I got an idea," fight whatever internal dialogue you're having, so that if it's a good idea coming from somebody who really doesn't have much training experience, you can hear it, recognize it, applaud it, and use it. And then if it's an idea from a training expert, you're ready. You've pushed through the emotions so that you can have a really logical, clear discussion as to, I hear what you're saying. Have you thought about, I wouldn't recommend that. Here's what I would recommend. Here's the evidence that shows that that doesn't work, whatever. So, training experts, that's a big part of these enterprise level projects. All right. NBT Nation out there, we're talking about the training effort attached to a huge, complicated organizational wide effort. Some tips and tricks on how to manage that. If you're finding this helpful, be sure to hit that like button. So, giving options and explaining consequences. So, whether it's a training expert with a great idea or it's just the internal discussions that go on as these projects unfold, give people options and explain the consequences. You don't want to, there's a time where you have to dictate to people what the next step is. What I found is usually more effective is to give people options and explain the consequences. So when somebody says, "Hey, we need to change the training plan because of something that's happened in a different department or unrelated to you in training. We've now got to change your training plan because of something unrelated over here in a team over there." Okay, great. Obviously, you're going to ask a lot of questions, get as much detail as you can, but then present them options and give them consequences to make the adjustment you're asking for. I could either do A or I could do B. Here's the consequences of A. Here's the consequences of B. Speak with radical candor and come to a negotiated decision. Really help them to go into that decision eyes wide open. Really give them a clear picture of what could happen, good or bad, if they choose path A or path B. So give people lots of options, but clearly explain the consequences if they choose that, at least from your perspective, from the training side of things. And then sometimes they may tell you, we still got to change it. And here's why over in these other departments that's affecting you over in the training piece. And then when you have that dialogue, you might realize, oh geez, yeah, we really do got to change. And let's pick option two, because that's better for everybody. And blah blah blah. And then you can have a better discussion. So give people lots of options, explain the consequences clearly, and then that sets you up for a more productive fact finding, more productive dialogue, partnership back and forth. All right. So one, two, three, four. The fourth topic I'd like to touch on. The more you as a trainer understand the organizational needs, the more you can help navigate through these complicated projects. Understand the organizational needs. And here's what I mean. When you're working on these big projects, typically, if you kind of think about it in three very broad buckets, you have day to day life. Day to day business still needs to happen while these big projects are happening over in the background. And especially if the people involved in the day to day operations of the business are also a part of figuring out how to develop, design, implement these big organizational wide efforts. If they have to do both at the same time, that's a real challenge. So you have day-to-day life. Then you have the project need itself, right? So maybe if it's software development, you're figuring out the final details of how the software works. That piece is being done by a different team. The training is being done by your team, but there's organizational needs for that group. In the product example, there's a new product launch coming out, and there's lots of different moving pieces to that. There's the organizational daily life that has to be maintained, but then you're gearing up in the background after hours. You're figuring out how to do this product launch. Well, that's that middle bucket of the project needs and details. Then you have the third bucket, which is the training piece associated to that project. And they're all equally important. You got to maintain daily operations. You got to finalize whatever the thing is, whatever the big project is, and you have to do the training to support that. And it's tough. It is absolutely tough to balance all those. Now, if you have a project team, if your organization has a project team that is separate from the people who do the day-to-day work, maybe life gets a little bit easier, but still now you're going to have to roll that project out to people who maybe have never even seen or touched the thing that's being done. So if it's a new project or new product development, if that's done by a product development team, but now you're talking about launching that product, the people who do the day-to-day work, like, I don't know, the sales team may have never seen that product before. So now you're going to have to launch it out, but you got to have the training so that the sales team knows how to sell the new product. You see how all these pieces start fitting together? If you're over here in this training bucket, that third bucket, the training piece, the more you understand how these pieces fit together, the more you understand how these pieces, uh, who the key players are in those three buckets, the more you understand the details of the project itself, the more you understand the details of daily life itself or daily work itself, and certainly the more you understand the training piece, now you know how all those pieces fit together. Now, when the storm is happening, we're trying to get this product ready for launch. No, we're changing the launch date. No, we're changing the marketing schemes. No, we're going to go to launch it at this trade show, at that trade show. No, this sales group is going to come to the trade show. Nope, they're not going to come. This other sales group is going to come to the trade show. As all those details start changing, you can ride that storm out better as the trainer. It may not make it easier because those changes can get crazy sometimes, but it can help you to navigate that storm. So think of it in terms of those buckets. You've got daily workload, you've got the project team or group itself, and then you have the training piece that fits into that project. As a trainer, the more you understand the organizational needs, the better. Trust me, it will pay off in the long run. Hopefully that made sense. And every project is different, every company is different, the way it's structured is different. So obviously I'm talking in a broad brush, but hopefully there's some helpful concepts and ideas. If that is helpful, give us a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, let me know what you're thinking. All right, three more quick points about how do you manage these large organizational enterprise level efforts as the training piece of that effort. So, as the project unfolds, when you're thinking about putting together the training, if you're doing a train the trainer approach where you are coordinating the training effort, but different teams and departments are actually delivering the training, or if you're managing the training across this broad spectrum of departments and different, you're doing all the training, you're designing, developing, and delivering it, but you show up in this project at different times. So you have to go train the marketing group, you have to go train the sales group, you have to go train the production group, you got to go train the assembly teams, but you as a trainer are doing that. Either one of those scenarios, somebody is going to start to struggle at some point. Somebody is going to start to struggle at some point. If you're doing a train the trainer and you're giving somebody a template to fill out to prepare them to put together their session and they start missing deadlines. Um, if you are doing a train the trainer and you do some workshops to help people practice delivery, if you do a train the trainer approach and you do feedback surveys and the feedback from the end user starts coming back that the trainers are making some sort of mistake or they're putting a barrier in front of the learners, whatever, there's an opportunity for improvement there. You're getting that feedback from the surveys. If your training teams are the ones actually doing the training, you're going to start to see sometimes your trainers getting frazzled as these different changes are happening in the project timelines, or you're starting to change the scope of the project And now you have to move your teammates around. Okay, today teammate one is doing this and teammate two is doing this. Whoop, project changed. Now they switch duties. Now, okay, you do more of this person's stuff, and now you're doing more of this person's stuff. That can be very frustrating. Um, in both scenarios, you've got people with personal lives and family issues and elderly adults and kids getting sick and cars breaking down. These big projects, people will get frazzled and they will fall down and they will not do what you're wanting them to do. If you're doing a train the trainer approach and somebody really doesn't understand, but they don't want to raise their hand and say, I don't understand what you're asking of me, Adam. They'll tell you, they'll give you lip service. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. And then when you really listen to their answers, they don't got it. They don't have an earthly clue what you're talking about. In all of those examples, you got to listen to your gut. If you're getting feedback surveys that your train the trainer trainers aren't cutting it, you got to listen to that. If you're getting the people that are telling you, nope, everything's great, but when you poke under the hood a little bit, it ain't so great, you got to listen to that. When your team itself is telling you, I'm getting tired, you got to listen to that. Listen to your gut. If you're falling behind on the timetable for the training piece, no matter how it's going to be deployed throughout the project, don't kid yourself in that, oh yeah, this is gonna we'll make it work. I'm not saying don't be an optimist. I think optimism plays a really important role that you, as the training lead, if you can just convince everybody that we can make this work, we have a detailed plan, we're going to make this work, just follow the roadmap. That's a good thing. And that's kind of my go to MO, if you will. But don't be so optimistic that you're not listening to the warning signs. So, don't mean to get all soapboxy there, but really listen to your gut. That's an important step of these training events and or efforts. Listen to your gut because there'll be ebbs and flows, there'll be victories and opportunities, there'll be things that go great and things that don't. Listen to your gut. Don't just fool yourself into thinking everything's wonderful. All right, two more tips here on a random pop-up Sunday morning live for NBT Nation. How do you manage those huge, complicated enterprise level events? Tips, tricks, lessons learned from my own experience. I'm knee deep in it myself right now. Give this a thumbs up if you're finding it helpful and enjoyable. It's great to have everybody along this morning. So, leveraging rock stars and surprises. That is our next tip on the tip hit parade here. These enterprise level efforts, whether you're doing a train the trainer approach, whether your team is responsible for the training and you're now partnering with all these different departments to help them, you are going to find rock stars along the way, people that you never expected to there's just those quiet contributors who come in and do a great job every day in their daily role are all of a sudden going to surprise you that they're a natural trainer or they're naturally gifted at organizing or they just are really good at you give them the template and they boom 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 fill it out. They are really good at taking your trainer's mind and translating it to the needs of an individual department. So maybe you're helping some folks out on a factory floor that assemble heavy machinery, and you're doing some sort of safety type training for them that's part of this big, huge, overarching project. But you, as a trainer, have never really been out on a factory floor. You've never really busted your knuckles working with heavy machinery. I'm willing to bet that as this project unfolds, you're going to find somebody out on that floor that can translate back and forth between trainer mind and frontline assembly wrench turning mind. And both of those minds are beautiful. Both of those minds are wonderful. And both of those minds have a job to do. So if you have a rock star that just shows it's like somebody you really have never worked with before, but you've met them through this project, and now they are able to help you translate back and forth. Use that. Absolutely use that. Recognize it. Tell them thank you. Buy them gifts. Really leverage that to help you get the job done. Uh, I have been experiencing that myself. People that through the course of the project I'm working on that I've never really had to interface with before. And I'm telling you, it's like, man, they are awesome people. They are super talented. They really get it. They're just as passionate about their job role as I am about mine. And buddy, together we can do something cool. That puts some wind in your sails as a trainer. That not only helps you get the job done, but it just makes you excited to work on the thing. Um, it makes you proud of that organization. It makes you proud of those people, and it causes you to elevate. They're so good at what they do in their particular piece of the organization that it makes you want to do a better job with your piece of the puzzle. So leverage those folks that are out there who just want to do a good job, and you can kind of partner together to get your project done. And they're in all departments out there. They really are. I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but you know, you're gonna these big enterprise level projects, um, they tend to reveal people's true character, which brings me to my last point in BT Nation. How do you manage these huge, complicated enterprise level projects? What are the tips and tricks? And how do you survive so that the training piece, we're obviously talking about training here. How do you survive so the training piece is effective? And the last point I want to talk about here on this Sunday morning pop up live, some people will rise and some people will fall. It is what it is. These big projects will reveal people, it will expose people, it will show you beautiful, wonderful things. It will show you people who are really care about what they do, who really care about the people that are around them. It will show you real leadership and it will expose the nincompoops. It will show you the people who care about the organization and the people who just want to tick the box and go home. These big projects will absolutely reveal to you people who have quietly been doing an amazing job in their little piece, their little part of the company, who could do so much more, who have so much more talent. And it will show you crap leaders. It will show you leaders who don't deserve that title, who don't care about their people, who don't respect their people. It will reveal to you the leaders who actually value training, and it will reveal to you those who don't. So this isn't just all about training, but this will reveal that very, very clearly. These projects, you will have people come out of the woodwork who you never would have guessed in a million years were capable of so much more. And I got to tell you, that's awesome. I hope you're hearing the excitement in my voice, but these projects will absolutely reveal that. It will reveal the people who are scared. It will reveal the people who are um, uh, far more creative than you ever would have guessed. And by the way, just so I'm clear, it does the same thing in you too as a trainer. So you not only through these enterprise level type huge complicated projects that just happen to have a training piece attached to it, it reveals everybody else, but it also reveals you, my friends, as a trainer. If you're not organized, this will display it for everybody to see. If you're too wordy like me, it will reveal it for everybody to see. If you're not able to adjust and pivot to the demands of an ever-changing project, it reveals it for everybody else, but it reveals it for you too. If you get frustrated because of the constant changes, it reveals it for everybody, including you. If the project um, the concept of the project, you can't keep the concept in your mind. It reveals it for everybody involved in the project, but also for you as the trainer. If you can't keep the project details and specifics in your mind, and you get lost and confuse things and create issues for the execution, it reveals it for everybody else, but it reveals it for you too. So some will rise and some will fall, and you got to understand that as a trainer. You got to understand it both for yourself and all the individuals who are you're going to partner with, coordinate with, work with throughout this big, huge team wide, department wide, division wide, facility wide, organization wide type project. You're going to bump into people who rise to the occasion and people who don't. And you got to be ready for it. And I think recognizing that, recognize when people are just lost. They are so lost that they don't know which end of the stick to hold. You got to recognize that as the trainer. The people that are rising to the occasion and revealing their talents or their abilities, or that they could be useful in that team to help the training piece to be so much better, you got to recognize that and then capitalize on that opportunity. You got when you're recognizing where you're rising and falling, where you're excelling, and then there's an opportunity for improvement within yourself. You got to recognize that and push through your egos and boundaries and self-limiting beliefs. But the organization, all of those people in that project, there'll be winners and there'll be losers. And you gotta be aware of that and roll with the punches as people reveal themselves. And the last piece of all that is that people will rise and fall throughout the scope of the project. So at the very beginning, where it's very conceptual and it's very idea generated and we're talking at a very high level, some people are going to rise and some people are going to fall at that step. When you get into the doldrums in the middle of all of the grunt work of starting for all the different teams to be doing their piece of the preparations and planning and building and all that, some will rise and some will fall. And then when you're in that finish line, the end is in sight and everything's dynamic and changing, and some will rise, some will fall. There you go. All right. We've covered a lot of ground here. One last piece that I would like to add to the mix, and this is just sort of throwing this on at the end. The last little tip, don't forget organizational change management in all of this. Now, as a trainer for this enterprise level process, the OCM, the organizational change management piece, may not fall to you. It may be senior leadership may be managing that. The project team leads may be managing that. Individual departments may be managing that. You may have a department all geared up for that, a communications team or a leadership group or something that runs with the OCM piece, and you're just responsible for training. But it may fall to you as well. It just depends on your organization and the project. But I got to tell you, if nobody's thinking OCM throughout one of these big organizational change, organizational wide projects, oftentimes these big projects involve change, and people don't like change. And the more you manage the change, the easier the project goes. And then ultimately, people are more receptive for the training piece. So that's just the last piece I'll throw in here at the end of this Sunday morning pop-up live, is be thinking about organizational change management. If you, as the training piece, have some influence or input over OCM, that's awesome. If nobody in the entire project is thinking about change management, you better be, whether you're a trainer or not. So there you go. You got to be organized, communicate, and use templates as a trainer to help all of these other groups stay on track and be organized and do trainer stuff, even though they're not trainers. You're going to run into all sorts of training experts. Get the good ideas from people who have them, and for people who have a great idea that doesn't work, be ready and have clear evidence and explanations as to why that won't work. Give people options and explain the consequences and then let them pick the options. Organizational needs. Understand what parts of the organizations are being impacted by this big project and understand the different organizational pieces of the project itself so that you can then manage the training piece better. Listen to your gut as people start to struggle or get frustrated or not understand or have self-limiting beliefs or not being ready to train. Listen for that and listen to your gut. If your optimism is your natural optimism is starting to give you rose-colored glasses, leverage those rock stars and those people who surprise you, whether it's inside an individual team or across the entire project itself. People are going to surprise you, and buddy, you want to be at their hip and be their new best friend. And then some people will rise and some people will fall, and that's throughout the course of the project. That's across different teams and departments, and that could be you too or your training team. Some will excel and some will struggle. Be ready for that. And then the last piece is change management. You got to recognize that that's an important part of these big projects. And in some cases, as a trainer, you might start to bump into that. And if you're not thinking change management, whether you're a trainer or you're just involved in the big project, you should be. So dive into that. So there you have it, my friends. Sunday morning pop-up live here at NBT Nation. No boring training. What do? We help leaders align learning strategies so that they can achieve big results. They can really drive their business forward in areas like revenue, profits, talent retention, customer satisfaction, net promoter score, safety, productivity, what have you. You can really move your business forward with a learning strategy. We also help trainers, whether you're a full-time trainer or not, to deliver effective training that gets people to learn, to get you real results and not yawns. Where do you find more information about all that? Visit us at noboringtraining.com. All sorts of free resources, guides, cheat sheets. There's a free course to learn the 6 foundations of interesting and effective training. There's products and services available there. noboringtraining.com. Thank you so much. If you found this interesting, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, or tag in somebody who needs to watch it. Hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for tuning in.